First Corinthians 13, verses 1 to 7, that says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres." This is the word of the Lord. Amen. We may take our seats. Welcome to church, everyone. Wow, silence, dead silence. Are there people in this place? Welcome to church. Thank you. That's more like it. Okay. My name is Thea Chapet. I'm part of the teaching team here at Flood, and I welcome you into our gathering this morning. Glad you can make it here. We're just so happy to see you, and it's a sunny day, so it's a good day. We've been going through a sermon series, or just started a sermon series. We started it last week. It's called Matters of the Heart. Now, Gary started us off last week, and we're taking a look at the matter of the heart called love, and how we ought to navigate it in the world around us. Now, Gary began last week by talking about a clean heart, a pure heart. And one thing that he said last week that has really stayed with me all week was the statement that all good relationships begin with our relationship with God. That all good relationships begin with our relationship with God. And this week, to add on to that, I'd say if you forget anything, I hope you remember this particular phrase, that all good relationships thrive when we're able to love God's way. So they begin in God and they thrive when we can love God's way. And I guess as we've read the passage, this is where we're talking about. We're talking about love. So let's talk about this passage for a little bit. Books of Corinthians were written by Paul. And so he wrote these books to the church in Corinth. And specifically this particular First Corinthians, there was a lot of disagreements that were going on in the city of Corinth, in the church in Corinth. There were people who were feeling like there was, I would say, cliques that were forming within. Other people who said, no, we're better than that. We follow Paul, therefore we are better. Others said, we follow Peter, therefore we are better. The others said, we follow Apollos, therefore we are better. There was so much discord within the church. There was very little unity. And then there were others who could speak in all kinds of tongues, others who could prophesy, all those are good things. But then when it came to worshiping together, all those things seem to be clashing because others thought my gift is better than theirs. My gift is the one that edifies the church more than theirs. And so there was a lot of discord within the church. There was a lot less unity within that particular church. And so this is where we begin. The chapter before what we just read is where Paul is encouraging these guys to say, hey, no gift is better than the other. In the same way that we say the body is one, the eye cannot say, I'm done with the body, I'm out, because then there'll be a discord there. In the same way, in the church, all gifts are under God, and therefore no one is better than the other. They all come to complement each other. And now I find it interesting that right after he tells them that, he now moves on to this entire issue about love. He goes on to describe what love is not, and all of those things, right? So I believe something that Paul is particularly hinting here is that unity is threatened when there is little love and a whole lot of pride, right? When there is less love and a whole lot of pride, unity is threatened. The minute we start to think, I am better than them, I know more than them, I am better at this than them, I have a better life than them, oh look, they think they've got that, but I would do better with that. When we begin to think that way, love is lost, right? We lose the love that God asks of us. But the thing is, the gospel that we have believed in, the gospel that we have said yes to, basically starts from a point that says no one is better. No one is good. Even if you did all your good deeds, any kind of good deed you can do is no better. It's like filthy rags. That's where we all begin. So there's no point in saying I'm better than them, because we're all starting at one point, which is we are no better. The only one that is better is God. The only one that is good is God. We are not. Our hearts are sinful. Our minds are sinful. That's the point where we begin, that we are sinful people. So it's actually pointless for us to continue on with that mindset to say, I am better than, or I know more than. Because again, under God, we all start at the same point, which is we are no better. The one who actually makes us better is God. But on our own, we are no better. So the problem to the disunity issue that Paul is addressing, he says that the solution is love. The solution is love amongst all people within the church. So here we are in this chapter 13, where Paul is now saying, hey, I know we talked about you've got prophecies, the gift of prophecies, you've got the gift of tongues, you've got the gift of knowledge, you've got the gift of faith, but all of those things mean nothing if you've got no love within you. You can have faith that will move the mountains. You can do many, many miracles, but all of those things will mean nothing if you do not have love within you. All your good deeds will mean nothing if you've got no love within you. So then let's explore, what is this love? What is this love that Paul is talking about? And we'll start with what love is not. I believe that's something that Paul is describing in this passage. Love is not. And he says it clearly. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil. That's what Paul says. Those are the things love is not. So if there's a common thread here amongst the things that he says love is not, is that all of these things that he mentions, if we look closely, they all come from a self-centered point. When we envy and say, oh, why do they have that and I don't? It comes from an I. I should get everything. Me. When we boast about, oh, I can do this and I have this and I have that, it comes from an I. You must know that I am better, right? When we dishonor others, it's because of I. We're thinking of the one, and that only one is me. Me, me, me. That's where all of these things that Paul says love is not are coming from. It's from a self-centered point where we continuously think we are above everything, right? There's a wording, a lingo right now within social media and all that says, oh, be the main character, right? Or main character energy. We've heard that a couple of times probably. And that's something that the world encourages us, be the main character and all of these things, right? I have main character energy today. And as much as that may signal, oh yeah, you've got some level of like self-love or self-actualization. However, a lot of the times that encourages us to feel like we are better than everyone else. That we are the ones, when our faith actually says, we're not the main character, God is. What we do is for God. Who we were made for is God, not ourselves, but God. So when we go on in believing this whole main character thing, it's when we elevate the I, and then it's easy for us to envy, it's easy for us to boast, it's easy for us to have pride, it's easy for us to dishonor others, to anger others, to be easily angered rather, and to keep grudges with people, to rejoice when others do evil, right? Because we're like, yeah, we call it karma, right? Karma will find them. Karma has found them. But the thing here is there is no that in God. He's saying, do not keep a record of wrongs. What we celebrate when we say karma is going to find them is that we're saying we're hoping for the day you face it. Right? We're hoping for that day. I'm not going to avenge you, but someone else will avenge you, and I will rejoice when they avenge you. Right? Someone will do something bad to you. Evil will find you. And that's not what the description of love here is. It says it does not keep any record of wrongs. It does not delight in evil. That's what love is. So when we remove ourselves from the picture, when we begin to see that God is the main character, our entire lives are meant to be about God, we then start loving people in the right way. Instead of saying, oh, but they did that to me, you will calm down, you will take a breath and say, you know what? People are not perfect, they mess up. And you will take the time to sit in that truth of, yes, people mess up sometimes. And I've messed up too. And that's love. To acknowledge the depravity of others, to acknowledge that we all are under the same umbrella. None of us are better. We're all sinners. And that's the point we're beginning. And so you acknowledge other people's failures, right? And when we think about this, one of the scenarios that came to my mind was, I think probably most ladies in this space will have experienced this. You're walking down the streets and you hear it, sister, muli bored, mngone kabwino, right? You're looking good. And you don't respond to it, right? And then the next thing is, right? It always turns from you are beautiful to no, you don't look good, you're so ugly, and all of those things. It changes because that compliment did not come from a place of love. They did not start from a point of, that is a human being who I ought to love. It comes from an I want something from you. Whether it's to sell you something that you must buy from me because I need the money, or it's because I want you to suddenly fall in love with me, whatever that is, it does not come from a point of love. And now we look at that and it's silly. Sometimes we laugh at it of like, oh yeah, I had this, experience in town and whatnot. And it seems silly, but those are some of the symptoms of that. As humanity, we just don't love well. We don't see other people as human beings worthy of being loved, worthy of being respected. Instead, we dishonor people. Instead, we rejoice in the evil that befalls them. That's what happens as people. But that's not the love that God is calling us to. That is not the space that God is calling out to. God is saying, I need you to stop thinking about you. Stop being so self-centered, because life is not revolving around you. If anything, life revolves around God. Life revolves around God. Life is about God, your creator, not you. You are not your own creator. You are not your own designer of your life. God is. God is. And so our mindset should be, let me not be self-centered. Instead, let me look at who God is in this space. Love looks at others as human beings, worthy of love, worthy of care, worthy of respect. Whether they return that love to you or not, they are worthy of those things. That's what we learn here. That's what we learn here. And there's a particular quote Gary had mentioned during our teaching team meeting, which was, church is not Tinder, right? And we all laughed at it and was like, yeah, church is not Tinder. But when you really think about it, a lot of the times there's this phenomenon that people say, oh, let me go to church so I can find a man or so I can find a woman so then I can get married, right? So then you come to church with that mentality. Not to say that church is not the place to find a relationship. However, if you come here with just the thought of, oh, so who's the next guy who I can, be in a relationship with? That person ceases to be a human being to you. That person is an object to you. Because what you are thinking about is you and your own satisfaction, not them, not who they are. That's why we have issues of people being like, oh, but they rejected me. How dare they? Yeah, because they're a human being with free will. It's okay that they said no. You have to accept that they said no because they're a human being. And so you have to look at them not as an object for your love, but as God's person, as God's child. That person is there for God first and foremost, not you. So you look at other people as these are God's people. These are God's children. Not made for me, made for God. So I treat them with respect. I don't envy them. I don't dishonor them. I don't rejoice when evil befalls them because they are God's children. He loves them. And if he loved me, then I get to give that love away to them as well. So the question is to ask, how am I loving? Is the love I give more about the people I'm giving the love to, or is it about me? Is it about my own satisfaction? Is the love I give more about me than about God and what he has called me to? So now we're back to the question, what is love? Because we've talked about what love is not. So now what is love? And in order to understand this type of love that God is calling us to here, we need to acknowledge the type of love that Paul is talking about here. So the word love in this particular passage, translated from the Greek, is called agape. Right? That's agape. So the Greeks had 4 ways to describe love, had 4 words for love, and agape is one of those words. And in the simplest way to explain this type of love, borrowing from the words of David Guzik, as he says in his commentary, it can be defined as a sacrificial love, giving, absorbing kind of love. This word has little to do with emotion. It has much to do with self-denial for the sake of others. Self-denial. That's what God is calling us to. The type of love that God is calling us to sells self-denial. That's what it says. And when we look at this passage, when Paul starts to describe what love is, there are no disclaimers. It doesn't say only love when the person is easy to love. Only love when their behavior changes. Only love when they don't hurt you. There are no disclaimers. All he says is, love is patient, love is kind. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. The love that God calls us to comes from self-denial. Self-denial of you getting your way and then being patient and saying, you know what, I'm going to sit here and wait. That's love. Love says, I could tell you about your life in this moment, but you know what? I choose kindness instead. Instead of saying the things that would hurt you, I'm going to choose to be kind in this moment. Instead of rejoicing when this so-called karma gets to you, instead, I will mourn with you. But what I will do is rejoice with you in truth, right? I will always protect you, always trust God's work in you, always hope for that salvation for you, and always persevere with you. That's the love that God is calling us to. And all of those things have little to, it's about us denying what we want. Again, we could say what we want to say. We could do what we want to do, but instead we choose to do different because that is what love is. Self-denial. It's about self-denial. It has very little to do with emotion, with how you are feeling. It's not about how you are feeling. You may feel offended, but you're still called to be patient and to be kind. You may feel justified to put others on blast because they wronged you, but you're still called to protect and cover them. You may feel like it's a waste to hold on because they're not changing or recognizing their behavior, but you're still called to trust God's work in them. You're still called to hope for their salvation. You are called to persevere. That is what love is. And that's not an easy love. It's not an easy thing to do. Because I think the easier thing would be to do what the world tells us to do, right? cut them off. Just cut them off, you know? Every time a new year begins, we have all these phrases that say, yeah, in this year, I'm going to cut off some people, right? There's always those things because we rejoice in just cutting off people. There is no persevering with people anymore because the minute they've done something I disagree with or something that wrongs me, immediately cut off. And that's not what God is calling us here. Now, let me be clear. The message here is not encouraging you to stay in abusive spaces. We're not saying stay in abusive spaces. That is something entirely different. However, the point here is that a lot of the times we give up way too easily. And we throw around words like toxic just nilly-willy. We just throw them around. Oh no, but that person's toxic. No, they just said no to you. They just said, I don't want to give you my chocolate, Basi. They're toxic. Those people, they're toxic. You know, stingy people. No, they're not. But now all of a sudden, I'm cutting them off. And it's like, no, God asks us to persevere in our love. And we persevere in our love because we trust God more than we trust the people. Because again, life is about God. It all goes back to God. We trust Him, therefore we love. We love Him, therefore we love others. I'll go back. As Gary said, our point of relationships begins with our relationship with God. And when we know Him and when we are tethered to Him and say, you are the one I serve, I surrender everything all to you, then we are also able to then say, you know what? The people you created, I will love them. I will be patient with them. I will be kind to them. I will persevere with them. I will protect them. That's the love that God calls us to. We love people because we love God. We love people because we are surrendered to God. And again, this goes for any kind of relationship we have. Whether with our parents, because sometimes it's harder because it feels like they're the authority figure. But first and foremost, they are God's children too. So our love towards them should start from that point. That is God's child too. Your mom, your dad, yes, but God's child. That relationship, that guy you are liking, you're crushing on, that's God's child. That girl you are crushing on is God's child. The relationship you have is with a child of God, and that's where it begins. Love because you love God and God loves His people. And you show love to His people. And as we finish off, I want us to take one very big note, that all of the ways that Paul describes that love is or is not is all active words. God's love is not passive. It doesn't sit on the sidelines. God's love is very active. He did not sit in heaven and say, oh no, my people are sinning. Oh no, what will we do? No, He said, the people have fallen into sin. Here's what we'll do. I will send my Son. I will deny myself and send my Son to die in the place of these people. He modeled it for us. So God's love is not passive. It doesn't sit on the sidelines. It says, my friend is struggling. Let me help. And it says, my friend is struggling. I don't know how to help, but I reach out to someone else to help a friend. That's what love is. Love sees and love acts. It's not passive. So you're either practicing patience, kindness, not envying or boasting, or you're practicing patience and kindness and protecting. All of those things involve you to act. They involve you to act, to be involved. So are you being passive in your love? Or if you feel like you are loving, where's that motivation coming from? Is it the self-centeredness for you to get what you want? Or is it self-denial to say, these are God's people, and I love them because I love Him. Where in life are you? Are you loving as God calls you to love? Or are you just ticking the box of I come to church, I go to prayer night, I go to growth group, and I do these things and that's it? I see other people struggling and not my problem, right? This is the saying is what? Not my circus, not my clown. Not the saying. I think it goes like that. But we say these things of it's not my problem, it's theirs. But if we are all in God's family, in God's community, then it is our problem. Love says your problem is mine too, and I act towards it. I'm not on the sidelines being passive. I act towards it. So as we take some time to pray and worship one more time, think through your heart, search your heart and ask God to search it too. Are you loving from a self-centered point, or are you loving from a self-denial point? Let's pray. God, your love is hard sometimes because we would love people to just act a particular way. But that is not what you call us into. That is not what you call us into. And so, Lord, may we trust you with how we love. May we trust you with how we see other people. May we trust you and your nature. May we trust you always. God, we love you, we honor you, we bless you. And thank you for this moment, Lord. Search our hearts and our minds. Help us to let go of self and to follow you. God, we thank you, we bless you. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to ask us all to stand one more time as we worship God.
This is the